So most courses that you take in communication, because you can major in that in school, they basically tell you what's wrong.
But they don't tell you how.
They don't tell you how to do it effectively. Communication it's like a history of human communication, rather than like setting two people up in front of each other, acting out different parts.
Our social disaster starts much earlier.
Yeah.
Our social disaster starts at the nursing stage.
Really?
Because and especially today, when a mother is nursing while she's on her phone, what you give is you give the nutrition, but you don't give the care, the emotional communication
Wow.
that you're supposed to give while you're nursing, right? It's like, and what will happen is like, the baby will stop nursing. First of all, I've seen like many, many times babies, right? They stop nursing if you don't pay attention to them. So now she'll think that, something is wrong with her milk or something is wrong with the position or whatever it is, right? But really what's happening is that he's being distracted by the fact that she's on the phone. And instead of like, using this time for rapport and using this time to teach the baby eye communication, and saying, oh, you're maybe not comfortable, sweetie, or noticing that maybe, they can't grab, very well or whatever, right? And, paying attention to what's happening, being in the moment with the baby, and communicating love and communicating, getting to know each other through those moments. And it's getting worse and worse, right? Because okay, back in when I had my babies, right, there was the phone, right? I learned it through the phone that I could not speak on the phone while I was nursing because I needed to be there much more, all of me, than just giving them food. So it has to do also with spoon feeding, not just with breastfeeding.
Right.
And it has to do with like, you don't just stick a toy for a baby. You're thinking, like you're learning your baby. You're learning how they're responding to one toy versus two toys. Like are they into a toy now? Or are you trying to, what's it called? Um, get rid of them, so to speak, or like, pay their attention to other things because you don't want to deal with them at this moment.
So you want to occupy their mind.
Occupy their mind.
So you
right?
can do something else.
Right. And they know it instinctively while they want our attention, right?
Yeah.
Then I remember bringing my daughter to kindergarten. And whenever I dropped my kids at the kindergarten, I was making sure, how their social engagements are happening in the kindergarten. And I remember, sitting there in one of the kindergartens and telling this, and noticing that my daughter we moved in a few days late into that neighborhood, and she joined this kindergarten a few days late, and everybody kind of knew each other, and it was hard for her to mingle mix into the community. Yeah.
Right.
And I was telling, like the teacher, and that, maybe she needs, what's the name of this kid? What's the name of that kid? So and I noticed that all the kids were kind of having their lunch on their own, sitting around the same, sitting on the four ends of the table, but each one to their own. And nobody's there teaching them how to communicate with each other. And even though, like a lot of those, most of those kids were already together for a few days, I noticed that many of them still did not know each other's name. Right. And I was like, okay, so how about teaching them, hey, like making a little ceremony around the meal, obviously, like,
get them to sing together.
Saying bon appetit to each other, teaching them how to be polite with each other and how to engage their eyes with each other. Yeah, they were very little, but we can start those things. Upbringing starts at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so basically we're teaching, if we're not teaching A, we're teaching B. If we're not teaching nothing, anything, we're
Right.
teaching something else.
Yes.
So if we're not teaching to engage, we're teaching to disengage.
Yeah.
So it starts at a very young age between parents and children in the kindergartens. I remember one teacher, kindergarten teacher, in the nursery, screaming at all these babies. I overheard it because I, came by and I heard this kindergarten screaming at a nursery of 3 month to 1 year old, screaming at one of the babies. Stop screaming! Do you think that you're the only one here? And I was thinking to myself, like how those kids are going to grow up emotionally well, right? Like the foundation is so rotted, is so broken. Like their hearts are going to be so broken. They're going to grow with such a big lack of love from
Oh.
day one. How are we going to teach them love your brother if they're being treated like this from day one? So you know what I did? I came in, I picked up my baby, and I left. And that was the last day of their nursery, that day in that
Experience.
nursery.
Oh,
Because I wasn't going to let my child grow up in that environment.
I know. Wow. You were working at the time? Why was it? Is that why the kid was in the nursery?
I was in between jobs, so I could allow myself to pick up the kid and go.
Right.
But it put my whole life on a totally different experience because I realized it was my first child,
Oh.
and I realized that I'm going to have to reschedule or redo my whole thought about what motherhood and career, how do they fit together,
like many women have to
like
do
many
that.
women.
Wow.
And I ended up giving my career for a few years and concentrating on homeschooling.
And that was an older generation way of thinking,
And this is almost 30 years ago. 27, 26 years ago, yeah. So, and now it's getting worse. It's worse and worse and worse. I remember working at some point in a school, and the other teachers telling me, "Come, have the coffee with us, have lunch with us." And I was like, "Don't you see that kid is alone, and that kid I know was hurt in the middle of class, and that kid forgot their lunch, and that kid is being outcasted by their friends,
That's the worst.
and
I've been there.
And I have, like, and understand also, and so one of the things teachers will tell you back is like, yeah, but I also need my break. And I'm like, you know what? If I have my break now the way I would maybe want to, my class is going to also look much worse because all this tension of the intermission will go back into my class, and all this negative energies that a bunch of the kids are processing is going to go into my classroom.
Okay.
And then the class looks the way it looks, and then we're complaining that 75% of the time in class they're not learning anything. Of course they're not learning anything because you're dealing with so many um, um, what's the word, attention issues or behavioral issues in the class, when the core problem is their emotional lack of attention or deficit of attention, because they're emotionally carrying so much with themselves they can't be focused on the class, and they are taking those bad energies of one upon the other.
That I remember. Seeing things that I had no explanation for. My parents never considered my feelings about anything. It's like I didn't have any feelings. And so and a kid even studied this too, and a kid has to protect themselves. So they are reacting like an animal, like they're reacting to how the parent is reacting. So if the parent wants you, can't say anything, can't do anything, can't be seen, can't be heard, you play that part because you feel completely helpless and dependent on them.
But if we adults, as parents or as teachers, when we're there, if I took all the kids in the intermission and set them around me, or even like at some point they would need to go off and play ball or whatever with each other, right?
Mm.
And then I would have my time off a bit better, But after I set them around me, like we had a nice lunch, and I was like, I saw that you were unhappy in the class earlier, and I saw that this kid grabbed your marker or whatever, and I made some kind of a rapport, some kind of a feeling that I understand them, that I'm with them, that my heart goes out to them. Then
It
they would
means the
respect
world.
me in class. They
It
would
means the
listen to
world.
me in
It's
class.
true.
They
It's
would be
true.
much more attentive to all this information we're bombarding them with because they're emotionally available,
Mhm.
right? And also in the frames of the house. So many times we're like, I don't have any, strength for my child, right? You don't have strength for your child, but you're going to have to come up with a lot more strength when all that no attention will build up to so many negative energies, and you will have to deal with all these other negative energies. It's like not cleaning the dust for a day versus not cleaning the dust for a year. So there are going to be all these layers of negative energies that you're going to have to, uncover, and and then like you're like, I don't even know where to start from. It's so much easier when you're like picking up on some brother quarrel in the beginning of it versus after they're ripping each other's hair out.
It's true. My mom was home. I had a stay-at-home mom. My mom was home
But
till
sometimes it doesn't help.
because she didn't communicate with me.
Exactly.
She didn't communicate with me,
Right.
which
But if
wasn't
you
her
do like a
fault.
little, like this
It's not your
court
fault, Mama.
case, right, between each two kids. Okay, that's how I used to call my kids. Okay, court case,
Well,
Okay,
that's interesting.
yeah, like
They knew it was a discussion, time for a
yeah,
discussion.
exactly. Like okay, so what's going on here? Like he started. No, he started. No, 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 okay, let's see. Okay, now I understand your feelings were hurt. Do you hear his pain? Do you hear his pain? Like let's figure it out. Like you you work much less at the end. It's when you don't want to work, you're lazy from doing your work, you're about to Hashem, right? And you end up working much harder later. Just like if you don't take care of your tire, and it will, God forbid, hit you on the highway,
A lot harder later on.
right?
Either your communication is broke down completely and you don't even speak to each other, or you try to work your way back to cover up all the wounds and all the pain.
Right.
Sometimes that works in the movies, it does. I don't know if it works in real life.
Right, right, right. And then coming back to what we started with, finding a spouse is exactly that, because what we need to do with our children in schools and at home and whatever, and what our parents should have done with us, we need to do now with ourselves. So instead of like, oh, this spouse is this bad and that spouse is that bad, it's like, what's in me that is not dealing well with this kind of spouse? And what's in me that is not dealing well with that spouse? Now, it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be with that spouse,
Right.
but learning to see what's in me not engaging well with that kind of a character, or that kind of a character, will allow me to see what kind of a personality I want in my life.
Definitely.
Instead of going through the whole thing, go through it in your imagination with your inner conversation, instead of going through the whole cycle of pain of, okay, so you dated one person, or maybe you're dating them over time, even, it doesn't matter. But learn to see what are the, deep issues of the lack of communication that interrupt you with this kind of a person or that kind of a person. So you can move on to a more accurate personality that is right for you. You'll attract a more accurate energy into your life.
I'm sure of it. That definitely. A lot of times we know what we don't want, but I think we also know what we do want. And if we were to see it and encounter it, we'd have the ability to be able to pick up on it now that we've have relationships and have opened up ourselves to refining ourselves and seeing our part in it, seeing that person's part in it, seeing the good, seeing everything.
And even the word want is a complicated word because I want and I don't want simultaneously.
It's true.
I don't really want with all of my heart, but Nachman talks a lot about that. If you're not sure what you want, it's going to be very hard for you to attract anything good into your life. You really need to know what you want and want it really strongly. That's why desire is the one of the three elements of being connected to the heavenly, being connected to Olam Atzilut, being connected to my crown, to my vitality. In other words,
Okay.
I really need to want, and if I don't want, I need to learn to want to want. And if I don't know how to want, I need to learn to want to want to want. So, like I was talking to someone, and they were like, "Well, I want to get married." No, I don't want to get married. If I think about it for a second, I don't want to get married, right? So you're like, I want to get married, but I don't want to get married, right? I hear it often.
No.
I want to get married, but you know what? Been there, done that. I don't really want to get married.
I know, me
but then
too.
The next conversation, I know, I have that conversation all the time with people. But then the next thing is you do want to get married. You just don't want it strongly enough because you've been wounded. I'm not blaming.
So how do you get over that? Oh, it's not a blame issue. It's like, it's out there.
It's asking myself, so what is it in marriage that I want? Right? For instance, this one woman I spoke to, she said, you know what? I really want a man, an older man. She's 50. She says, I want an older man because I don't want him to have any sexual desire. I want to find a man who has no sexual desire.
She'll have to go to another planet.
Okay, fine. I don't know. You know what?
I don't know the setting
there are different levels. First of all, yeah, there are different levels of sexual desire.
Yeah.
I know a man who has a wife in her 40s who's like, my wife wants to have too much sex. So it's like, it's
I know that.
They're different needs. Exactly.
Yeah, there's different
Learn to identify your own needs and learn to want what's right for you and attract into your life what's really right for you. Everything exists. That's what I learned to see. Everything exists. That's why God is called Ein Sof. Because your needs are out there. Learn to really identify them, want them, and attract them into your life. Don't say that doesn't exist or that doesn't exist. The one exists.
Oh, yeah.
Just learn to attract it into your life. Maybe you will still need to modify a bit what you want and accept that it's not 100% the way you wanted it. But generally speaking,
there's some room for flexibility.
It will fit in well. That fit is there. Just learn to, identify it and want it with a real strong sense of desire. Anything. We gave a specific, example dealing with sexual needs, but it's true for all kinds of needs, for all the
emotional
variety.
Support,
right?
Caring, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It works.
Unfortunately, I'm not seeing many men who are very emotionally supportive.
Now you're just, it's out there.
It's true. No, but I hear what many women will tell me. Yeah, show me where that emotional man is. Right? but there are those men there too.
You just don't know where they are.
Yeah. But now you identify. Okay, so what do I need more? I need this kind of emotional support, and I need this kind of sexuality, and I did this, that, and so you'll find, he'll fit 30% into this category and 40% into that category, and all together will blend to a situation where you can say, yeah, I can live with this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
if you come out from the place, I want Mr. Perfection or Mrs. Perfection, no, it won't work.
No.
But if you come from the place of like, yeah, I know I'm getting to know who I am better.
Mm.
From that place, I'm learning to modify my needs and also accept the fact that every category will apply only a certain percentage to my needs, but it will be good enough to build a good relationship around that.
I think that what's very important is that people have to be optimistic, because if you have any negativity or bitterness or sourness or whatever, you're going to
Right.
put that out.
Right.
So I think that it takes a bit of work until you've gotten to the point where you are optimistic and hopeful, almost like a child,
Right. Right.
that you're not going to attract it.
Right. We were almost reading each other's minds because
We've lived it.
because we also very much needy like children, and we're like, what do you mean you're not going to give me everything I want and I need, right? And it's just not realistic. We're going to have to come out of that neediness and that dependentness in our hearts and learn to be a little bit more independent
Mm-hmm.
And learn to accept that the other person is also a human being with needs and heartaches and physical disturbances and whatever, emotional, physical disturbances in their
Have
life.
had challenges.
And have had challenges and
health
maybe a less
issues.
optimistic.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
A woman, a happy, smiling, optimistic woman, is irresistible.
Right.
They really are. They're
Right.
irresistible.
Right. And many women had kind of given that up in their lives. Yeah.
They're in pain.
Understandably, of course.
They're in pain.
Yeah, we're not judging or blaming
I
anyone,
know.
God forbid. But we need to reawaken that feeling inside of us of
Hope.
hope. Yeah, yeah.
Hope.
Go back into the world with a smile on our face.
Yes. Hope. We can't lose hope.
Yeah. It's true, by the way, within marriage also. Before we get divorced. Maybe like that's another reason not to get divorced, because we understand that later that we have to do it outside of the marriage also to find a new spouse. Maybe it's easier to just do it with this one that we're with right now.
I'm sure that's a possibility. I think in some cases it is, in some cases
Yeah,
it
for
isn't.
sure.
But
I'm just saying it's an option too.
I understand.
Yeah.
But look at all the hope that we're willing to believe that the best is going to come out of this war. The hope that we belong here. All of us are willing to do that. We have to be willing to come up with hope in our
Personal lives.
I see hope around me. Unbelievable. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. Let's go have a cup of coffee.
We're going to have to go through our personal growth this way or the other. With more challenges or less?
Yeah.
Personal challenges, individual challenges,
Yeah.
marital challenges, financial challenges, whatever it is that life will throw at us, it's trying to move us to go through an inner growth.
This is what we were talking about yesterday.
Right.
The idea of the value of challenges, our challenges.
Right. And if we don't do it the easy way, we'll have to do it the harder way.
It seems to work out that way. It does. But we have to let go.
Easier way. Not easy. Probably never easy. But the easier versus the harder.
But we have to let go of the notion that we're on this planet to build ourselves the house with the white picket fence and and the rose garden. That's not what we've been put here for. And there's work to do. And also, it's very satisfying when you've worked through this stuff. It's satisfying. I don't know how satisfying it is to sit in a house with a white picket fence years and years. I don't know. I think it's boring.
Well, we would take that, but it's just not what life seems to be about.
I mean, we're okay with it for a few
Right.
years, I don't know. I always
Right.
have to pick myself up after a certain amount of years and make a change.
We're all asking ourselves for the meaning of life, and that is the meaning of life. Yeah. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me and
And
answering my questions.
thank you all for being with us today. And I hope you're doing well. And please write your comments below and send us your comments, questions, and subscribe.
And forward
Share.
this to your friends who you think could use the support.
And a thumb up will encourage us to continue. So if you enjoyed us, give us a thumb up. And we bless you to have a wonderful day. Love you.